Welcome to episode number 99, where we talk about the race to space. Billionaire businessmen Elon Musk, Richard Branson, and Jeff Bezos all raced to sell commercialized space travel. A big milestone was achieved this week. 4 amateur astronauts landed successfully after 3 days in space. They are the first private or civilian team to orbit Earth. We take a closer look into this topic and the importance of space exploration. So stay tuned and let's get started.
Take off, take flight with you. For we never fly, but we're flying.
Okay, welcome to episode number 99. How is everybody doing?
That's a big
know,
number.
crazy.
Oli, repeat that number of episode just so everyone in the back heard you. Say that again.
Episode number 99. Can you guys believe that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I can
can?
actually. After we got past, I think the first episode or the first 5 or 10, we had a chance. But I think the first 5 was so rocky that you never know which direction is going to go in.
That's true. Imagine how many hours of content we've provided. When you think about it, that's crazy. Probably
Question is,
80 hours.
is it quality content? That's the question.
It depends. It depends who's leading the episodes.
Okay, so we're gonna start firing
That's a
shots.
perfect example.
We can look at the analytics, right? We can look at the data.
We should get some ratings, man. We should get some ratings going. I saw Stephen A. Smith was going crazy
I think that's what I'm
the
going
other
to
day
do.
on Breakfast Club.
For
Ratings.
for the next episode number 100, I'm going to actually look at the data and see which are our number one trending episodes, whose episodes those were, and we can start sort of rating each of our episodes. But anyways, how is everyone doing, Daniel?
Before we see the data, real quick, before we see the data, why don't we take a quick guess on who we think number 1 is?
In terms of which episode?
Yeah, I don't think
in
we
terms
have
of
that
like
information.
who out of us four would have the highest ratings based on the agendas put forward over the last 99 or less than 99 because we've done the solos, but solos also count as well.
Solos also count. Oh, my money's
Who do
on
you guys
Daniel.
think?
My money's on Daniel.
My money's on myself, so we'll see.
My money's on Daniel. I put my money on Daniel.
P.
My money's on myself.
I put my money on Daniel.
Oh,
But anyways,
are you betting on another man? Come on, all right, let's go. Next one. Let's go.
How's everyone else doing? Daniel, how you doing?
Let's hear about Shuo. Let's get straight to Shuo because Shuo's had I think an interesting
10 days.
2 weeks. Well, he always seems like he's having an interesting couple of weeks. So Shuo, why don't you start?
No, it's been I think probably what I'll have to do is I'll have to do like a mini breakdown in one of the Take Flight Takeaways episodes. But I think the last 10 days during this induction week, there's been so many moments where I've caught myself looking around and thinking, and Nandi, you can bleep this out, how the am I here right now?
But sure, for the listeners who may not know what you're referring to, you say induction.
Yeah, you need to provide some context. That sounds mad.
So I mentioned it briefly in the previous episode. So I just recently started an executive MBA program at Cambridge University. Now, this is something that I've been thinking about doing since 2014, and now we're in 2021. So it's been years in the making. I think I've lost count the amount of times I've had conversations with Pabilo about it. But then, the last couple of years, I really thought deeply about doing this type of program. For those who aren't aware, it's basically a master's program focused around business and administration and management, giving you a broad spectrum of knowledge across multiple parts of a business. But for me, actually, the most important part was to open my network up to people in different industries, and also see if I can open up a network through a reputable university as well. So I think especially the last couple of years, I've been looking at it in more detail. I applied for a couple at the beginning of this year, and I was fortunate enough to have been offered a place in Cambridge. It's a 20-month program. So now is what we're calling the honeymoon period, where everything seems rosy, the work seems good, the deadlines aren't coming thick and fast. But then in the next couple of months, things will start to ramp up. And if things go well, touch wood, God willing, then I should be graduating in April 2023. And for me, especially, it's very helpful course because it's a part-time It's part-time studying, so I'll basically be doing one weekend a month for the next 20 months on average. But there are a few months where it will be a 1 week or 2 week experience in the university. So the week that I've just come back from, that was the first week, the induction week, where we got to meet all the other students. In total, there's 130 students on the course. We had formal dinners, lunches. It was an exhausting week, if I'm honest. By the time we got to Sunday, I was knackered. But now, yeah, back into the normal routine of things, and yeah, it was a great experience.
Fantastic. What about yourself, P? How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I was actually going to just add to say it's a perfect example of how education never stops, right? Even formal education. So yeah, no, I love, and we're going to be interested to hear a lot more of that as you continue your journey. Excuse me. I'm good. I'm really good. The other day I jumped on Instagram and I spoke a little bit about routines and perfecting a routine, and recently over the last week and a half I've tried something a little bit different. It's worked out really well. Daniel's laughing, but I think one of the reasons also it allows me, compared to a couple of weeks before, to have family time around 6:30 and really commit to that. So so the workload hasn't changed, but the way I've managed myself has, and I'm
But
getting better outcome.
P, if you want, so in case anyone missed your Instagram
Oh, yeah,
video,
of
how
course.
would you summarize it for the listeners?
Yeah, just super quick. So I've basically, I'm an early riser anyway. I like to get up around 4:35. But usually I would start to read and work out, and then start working out, then start sort of attending work. Daniel, stop making me laugh. But what I've decided to do now is basically start earlier. So around 5:30, start working, and then I realize I'm a morning person, so it works for me. From 5:30 till 9, most of the things that matter and that are priorities are pretty much finished. So by the time everyone's up, I'm already in a commanding position. I've got control, and I can quickly respond to emails as they come in.
So when everyone's up, you go back to sleep.
No. I'm up. But it just allows me to have inboxes are super clean. Turning around emails, turning around requests. It's effective. It's effective at a time where you have relatively high workload.
And it allows you to know what you're going to be doing for the day, right?
Yeah, up until you got a record for take flight. Yeah, up until you got a record for take flight.
Okay,
but
got it. Okay,
well, it's great. Great for you to be back on your feet, P, because I know before they had a couple of weeks where you were feeling unwell and stuff. So back to full fitness. Daniel, how are you doing? Looking fresh, by the way. For the people that can't see and you're listening to the podcast, Daniel is looking extremely fresh today.
Yeah, the hairline's traveling though.
Huh?
No, I just said your hairline's.
You getting jealous?
That's it. No, I think it's. I don't.
Well, yours traveled at the speed of sound, brother.
But the thing is, the difference is, I'm not trying to sport a hairline. You are. You understand where I'm coming from? That's the difference. So I'm the guy that is basically 0 to shaven, and that's my look. I rock that well. You're not.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Your hairline.
It's my barber. It's my barber. I'll tell you that. I need to find the new one. But it's cool.
Oh my god!
Trying to fire shots. No, but as well, back to your question. I'm doing more thinking. P's just a bit jealous at the sharpness.
No, I was feeling some shots when I was talking, so I just had to spray it back. You know what I mean?
Okay, cool. That's how we want to move today. We can keep it rolling. This is
gonna be a long episode.
Bro, people, your head back up, man. I can see an M shape.
This is gonna be a long episode.
I can see an M shape.
Listen, I don't.
Thing is, you know when someone starts talking and the first thing they say is "listen," they're feeling hot right now. You know they're feeling the pressure.
Heated.
No, it's cool. I've already done him. I've already done him.
Looking at the golden arches.
Listen, I've already done him. That's why he's still talking. I've done him.
You keep coughing.
Olu, please go ahead.
Okay, so for myself, it's been a really interesting week. Which I'll give more context and more details later on. But anyways, long story short, I purchased my first property at auction last week. Interesting process. I think it's great process, streamlined. The only difficulty or additional stress that you have is the time frame that they give you, right? In most properties, you might have 2 months to be able to exchange. In this particular scenario, they've given me 20 days to exchange. So you can imagine you need to be tight when it comes to communication, responding to lenders, getting everything sorted in time. So I've got a good team. Through the help of P put me in contact with a few people. So I'm excited to actually see the property because I haven't physically seen it. So, but I would do a takeaway episode where I go into more detail about it. But it's been stressful, but I always say anything that's rewarding has an element of stress in it. So it is what it is.
Man, round of applause.
Yeah, and just a small correction: it's not your first property; it's your first property via auction.
Yeah, that's what I said.
You're not-
I said
no.
first auction
Okay.
property.
Okay.
Are you going to be listening this episode, or are we going to?
Not no small boy in this. No, I was gonna say you're not no small boy in this. That's what I'm gonna say.
Exactly. Yeah. Anyways, let's get into the episode. This one is a different episode, should I say? So I'm gonna give the background and the context of this episode. So this episode,
take your time with the background and context, Ali. Take your time.
So
with
this episode is in relation to space and space exploration. So the background and context of this is I was up late one night, which is not Pabilo's advice when it comes to life management. He believes you should wake up early, not stay up late. But anyways, I was watching a Netflix special around SpaceX, and it was following the SpaceX inspiration for exploration. And what is unique and special about this particular exploration is it takes 4 civilians with no experience in terms of being astronauts, just regular Joes like us 4 on this podcast, for example, and they take them to space. And the reason why this is going to change the whole space exploration and the game is this can potentially start to lead us to commercializing space travel to a point where we could decide to book a trip and say, hey, let's go to space for 4 days. So really, that's the background and context and why I wanted to just talk about this particular topic. So let's just start off by going back to our childhood, right? And I want to ask the question and pose the question of, growing up, did anyone in this group want to be an astronaut? Did you ever think about space, traveling to space? That background. So let me start with P, because I know for P, all his life, he's always wanted to work in numbers and finance. So it'd be good to hear if you had any other aspirations or dreams.
So when I saw this question on the preparation, and I thought to myself, I don't know. I know people talk about, when I grow up, I want to be a fireman, I want to be a policeman, I want to be all of this kind of stuff. You hear that in the movies, especially. I think there's only, and I didn't have any of those kind of aspirations. It was just, growing up in North London, you just go through the education system. But there was actually one particular job that I thought, you know what? When I was little, I thought this will be cool, and it was a dustbin man.
What? Okay.
Wait,
were
you fascinated by the truck?
Oh my god!
Yeah.
I don't know if Pabilo's being serious right now. If he's
It's the truck. It's the movement. It's the movement of the bins loading up the truck. I know.
Well, it was that plus these guys. Yeah, I thought it was the coolest job. Think about it. You're walking to school and you're seeing guys jump off a truck, throw stuff in, jump back on, and it drives. I was thinking, raw, that's a job. So that was at one point, I thought that would be cool to do.
God.
You know what?
But it wasn't an aspiration. But I never had a sort of aspiration to want to be a astronaut. No.
I think the difficulty is when you live in London, you don't always get to see the stars because of all the pollution.
It's true. It's true.
So I think from hearing P's story, he had to relate it to what you could see.
But let's go to Dan, because I think Dan had a similar appetite for that as well.
Nah.
What, being a bin?
No.
Wait, Daniel could not wait to say nah just then.
No, but he was.
I didn't have the appetite, but I had the fascination of the truck. When I was young,
guys, this episode is about space, not about.
But I'm just, no, but it's the fact that I liked playing with things that had buttons and moving parts. So what fascinated me, and I remember even being in the library wanting to buy a truck, was having the buttons and having the bin move up and emptying things out, and it was the whole mechanics that interested me in terms of a bin truck.
I wasn't that deep in it. I just liked the fact that these guys were at the back of a truck, just.
But back to
Holding on.
the question back to the question at hand. If I had a desire to be an astronaut when I was younger, no, I did not.
What
I
about
didn't-
just
yeah.
space? Did you ever think about space, look at the
100%.
stars and say, what is out there? Did it give you any sort of realization?
Not really. I didn't really have any fascination with space or the planets or stars or anything around that nature. And even till today, I wouldn't say I have a burning desire. I have more of an interest because I'm older and I can think things through more logically, and I think what's out there. But I didn't have any sort of fascination or interest when I was a young child.
Oh, interesting. Because if I go for myself,
But
right?
even-
If I
Go
go for
ahead.
myself, right? I've
wanted to
caught
be
myself in
astronaut, yeah?
moments. No, I wouldn't say I wanted to be an astronaut, but I've caught myself in moments where I've looked up at the stars and said, wow, how insignificant are we in the bigger picture, right? When you think about, I think it gives you a wow moment when you're looking at the stars, you can see the moon, especially when we have like total eclipse and certain instances that happen throughout the year, you start to think, wow, how beautiful is the world and the planet. You start to think about, is there life outside of, because I think whenever we think about the world, right, we only think about ourselves, but you think, if there's this place that hasn't been discovered, is there life force outside of there? There's certain shows that I used to watch growing up. I'm not sure if you guys watch Star Trek, right? I used to rush home and you used to watch Star Trek all the time. You would see Spock. I remember everyone was trying to do like the sign and everyone live long and prosper.
I was just
all of those things.
trying to jump on the back of a dustbin truck, dog.
Yeah, you were too busy trying to jump on the back of the. But there's certain shows that I used to watch where you'd see space travel and you'll wonder, oh wow, that is crazy. Even just around, I saw it less around being able to become an astronaut, because I did believe that that was unachievable, but I saw it more in regards to the technology that was there, where it was like, if we have this technology in space travel, imagine how life on Earth would be. And I think it's a lot of these shows and movies, what you'll see, a lot of it will be based on space and the spacecraft traveling. But then when you do get a glimpse of life on Earth, you see like completely different world, like a whole revolution or like technology base. And that part interests me in terms of the advancements that we could see in terms of technology. What about yourself, Shua?
Yeah, if I'm honest, I never thought about space once as a kid. I think at home, my parents were stressed about paying the bills from month to month, and as a kid, you just focused on cartoons, video games, and all this other stuff that I didn't really have the mental capacity to think about space. Now, I would hope that with what we are all trying to do and aspiring to do, that our kids will probably have much bigger goals than what we had and much bigger dreams, going back to an episode that Pabila had spoken about a few episodes back. And maybe they would think about it. But as a kid, I never thought about it. But I would say probably the last couple of years, I think with all the noise around SpaceX, Blue Origin, all of these things, I think I've definitely started to think about space in the sense that how small we are in the wider context of things, but not in terms of space travel, just more on a, I don't know if it's even spiritual, but just kind of recognizing how small we are in a very huge amount of space and how that kind of ties all together. But yeah, as a kid, never really thought about it that much, if I'm honest.
It's interesting, right? Because when I think about the Apollo 11 mission, right, to the moon.
Yeah, explain a bit more about that mission in case no one knows.
So, in regards to the mission, it was basically Neil Armstrong, which everyone knows his name, right? And this was in like 1969, right, where they had a mission to take off and land on the moon, where everyone's seen the clips, right? I know Pabilo, the conspiracy expert, will probably say that it didn't really happen,
What's this guy
or,
talking about?
or it was in a Hollywood
They didn't
green
land, it was
screen.
simulated.
Why am I the conspiracy expert? I don't understand. What have I done?
You are.
What
But
have I done?
I could just imagine when they were taken off, how much of a big scene that was, right? The amount of people that were watching to see it take off, to see it land. And I wonder why SpaceX, right, which happened last week. If I ask you guys, how many of you even watched a video of it taking off? Did any of you care to watch it? I wonder why it seems like less interest from what used to happen back in the day, where everyone would be around the TV, it'll be a family gathering, you bring people around to see it, because like it's a massive advancement for humankind, right?
I think people probably didn't tune in because there's a lot of option now on TV, and so when there's a lot of option, people don't necessarily gravitate towards it, and because it's almost so frequent, it's not really an anomaly. It's almost not an expectation, but it's a frequent occurrence that people don't feel like, oh, this is a once in a lifetime moment that I need to tune in. You know, when they say, "Where were you on this day?" It's not going to be, it's not going to be a big deal. I think the Euro finals probably would be, if England won it, we're like, oh, where were you on this day? That's probably going to have a bigger headline, in my opinion.
No, actually, the only thing I actually wanted to add, you talked about the fascination of space when we were younger. The thing that was fascinating for me was where there's no gravity, and watching individuals effectively at that time look like they're flying around. So I've always been curious at what that would feel like, or what that would be like. But I think my fear, maybe like most people, would be not necessarily going into space, is not being able to come back, right? So, but I'm certainly curious to see, like you just spoke about some, because it looked like Richard Branson. I'm not sure about his brand, but it looked like a normal plane, right? So they've designed it in such a way that it just looks like a normal plane, and it gets you up there. So it's interesting times. A question though, Olu, how much did the documentary talk a little bit about plans to try and develop life out there, or life out of the world as we know it?
So, and this goes into why the SpaceX, and they called it the Crew Dragon. That was the name of the crew that were going out there. Why this was so important, because in a lot of movies and shows that we talk about, right, we think about the planet Earth having an exploration day, where there's gonna be, I honestly believe there's gonna be a time where we've seen what's the one that Will Smith was in?
I Am Legend.
I Am Legend. No, not I Am Legend. The one,
Yeah,
the space one. It's not
Independence Day.
Independence Day. We've seen Armageddon, right? We've seen so many shows where it's the end of the world, right? So they did talk about it, where they said, look, we need to have a contingency plan, right? And I don't think anyone on this phone or anyone on this podcast will make that contingency plan, but they talk about potentially we need to have a contingency plan if something was to happen. And then also you want to start to explore and see what's out there, right? Because a lot of people don't realize that the reason why space exploration is really important is because of the technology that you develop when you try to answer some of the toughest challenges. So if you look at air purification, right, that people have in their homes, that was discovered due to space travel. If you look even at
you mean the water filtering?
No, the air purification. So
air
like
purification.
That
you
people
got
have in
Dyson,
their
you
house.
purify the air.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
If you look at even our like foam beds, memory foam beds, right? The reason that was designed and created was because they wanted to make it comfortable for people to travel to space. And then after they create that technology, they said, oh, you know what? We can now use that for bed. Even if you look at the cordless vacuums, they were initially made to collect rocks in space. And just 1 second, guys. Sorry, at the back.
It sounds like you got a SpaceX at the door, big man.
it was the doorbell. So even the vacuums, the cordless vacuums, they were originally made to collect rocks in space, and now they adapted that and changed it to make it into cordless vacuums here. So that is a big part of it. One thing that also was really crazy and good and about this travel was it was automated, right? So the spaceship that they have didn't have an astronaut like manually directing, or it was completely automated. So it was able to take 4 civilians, and that's the reason why they were able to take 4 civilians, which was led by this guy called Jared, who was the CEO and founder of a company called Shift 4, which he then ended up saying instead, what do you say, P?
So let me understand. So there was no pilot in effect.
No pilot. So madness, right? And this is why this is so crazy, because you know how we're talking about automated driving like cars, right? If they're already doing it with spaceships, it's coming. Like that is why people don't realize that there's so much excitement around space travel, even if it's just giving inspiration to the younger generation to be curious about science and trying to answer those tough and difficult challenges and problems. Because when those are solved, it then provides solutions for human, like the issues that we're facing on Earth, right? So that's one of the reasons why I was really curious about this show. Like most of these shows about space, I don't really watch, but it was just so much information that came from it. Now, one part that I didn't like about it, and I would want to get you guys' point of view, is they tried to market it as okay, space travel would be for the regular Joe, right? And when I think about the regular Joe, I think about it like me getting on a plane and being able to.
How much is the ticket? Like a mil?
It was like close to $1 billion. It was like close to
for a ticket.
Like he basically so the way they did it was he was funding the whole. So basically they tried to donate 200 million to a hospital, but then it was like this guy's a billionaire, so it's chicken. Like it's not significant to him.
But if I want to fly, how much do I have to pay?
You won't be able to fly.
Okay, don't say like that, because I'm not just some.
Slow
down. No, wait, slow down. Please, slow down. Don't disrespect me like that.
Karen will one day listen to this.
Like, not like that. Not like, you know what I mean? There's different ways we can do it, but not like that. I'm joking. But
I'm just trying to manage. I'm just trying to manage your expectation.
Okay, but I'm speaking.
Olu, you were very quick to be like, nah, not you.
So for him to get,
you didn't even answer the question, bro. How are you just skipping past? Yo, wait. Whoa!
So for him to get,
it's about to be a 3-man episode right here. What's that? Yo, wait. How much is the ticket? How much is the ticket?
So for him to get the tickets for it was around 100 million that he paid.
Jeez, man.
But he committed that to like charity expense. But anyways, with any technology and any advancements, right, it's expensive initially and then it reduces. But one point I wanted to get from you guys is they marketed this as it was just the average Joe, right? Some of the people were over the age of 50. One of the women was a survivor of cancer and she had a prosthetic leg. And they were like, look, all of these average Joes are able to travel. But one thing I realized is that they still had to train for 6 months. So it's not like you were able to, like a flight, you were just able to jump on that flight and go, right? You needed a certain level of training to be able to ensure that you can handle the G-force. How would you handle the stress of traveling? So do you guys ever think it's going to get to a place where it's just going to be seamless and stress-free to be able to travel and take this space exploration?
I want to just chime in and say, I came across a report or an expert speaking. They are working as we speak. You know, certain wealthy individuals are working on life outside of Earth as we know it, and building infrastructure on different planets. But they're already working on that. So it comes back to answer your question, which is around. Eventually, I guess they'll find a cheaper way to make this happen, and I think more people will over time be curious enough to want to go into space. But I think it will. I think it's going to be more than just going up there to have a look and come back down. I really think there will be some activities and opportunities to spend maybe a couple days outside of Earth. So let's see. We'll
And
get
do you
let's
guys
get the
think?
thoughts from let's get the thoughts of others. But I would like to get into the investment side of things.
Yeah. Do you guys
Where
think
can we
it's a?
start? Brian?
So, what about yourself? What do you think, Daniel?
Well, I think well, I've watched films. You know, one of my favorite, well, I won't say favorite films, but Interstellar, and that's about looking at life and supporting life beyond what we currently know, not this Earth, but the Earth that they're living in, and looking for a parallel universe. And it stars Michael Caine and others. And I feel as though they're forcing to support life on other planets, and whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know. It's of course going to be on my my time on Earth. I think they're trying to normalize exploring beyond what we call Earth and thinking of life outside of it. Whether that's going to be successful, I don't know. And I think it might be a case where only those who are wealthy
100%.
and that can afford it will only have the opportunity. Because Oli, you alluded to like looking at some contingency. It's all great having a contingency, but who's this contingency for? It might not be for everyone. And that's the interesting thing. It's not that it will be created equal. I think it'll be quite fun and fascinating. Like what Richard Branson did is to look and go outside the Earth's stratosphere and look down and see what it looks like. And that will be mind blowing. That will be an incredible experience. And I would definitely say I would love to do that if I could afford it. I don't necessarily think that they will be successful on trying to support life, create life outside of this Earth in a natural way anyway. If they did, they'll continue to take their probes and try and support life to say, oh, they found water. They'll create something in a tube that would be synthetic, then supports some meat-free alternative to sustain life. Something along those lines. It'll be very wild. It'll be very wild. But I don't think it'll be natural. Let me put it out. It wouldn't be natural.
Cool. I'm sure.
No, I think my quick take is similar to Daniel. I don't think it'll take quite a while for life to be like a full-blown life to be out there in space. But I definitely think within our lifetime, I'm optimistic that I think travel to space will become a lot more freely available just based on what we've seen in the last 12 months. So if you just stretch that out across 20, 30 years, and if we continue that rate of progress, I think civilian travel to space will become the norm. And I would love for us at some stage to do a take flight episode where we're talking about how we've taken flight into space at some point. So why not? I think definitely in our lifetime something like that will be possible, and I'd love to be able to share that experience with you guys. Let's see.
And do you guys think, in regards to the fact that these billionaires, Richard Branson, Elon Musk, and Jeff Bezos, are spending money on this? NASA is also spending money on this. If I understand, they have around 70 billion that they spend a year on sort of space exploration. What do you guys think about that? Do you feel like it's right that they're spending that money on space exploration, or should they spend it on stuff going on here, right? We still deal with homelessness. We still deal with high starvation levels in certain areas. So our financial manager, P, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm in no position to speak on the billionaire's wealth. I'm just trying to get it myself as well. Do you know what I mean? So I'm not about to I'm not about to now say these guys have got to redirect some of their money into the homelessness, because now we're getting into a discussion about, you know, capitalism and capital allocation, and we know what that's about. But what that tells me, I didn't know the number. You said 70 billion, 70.
7, yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how that investment is increased over time. But it just basically,
but that's the
like
total. That's the total global spend. So it's not just those three that I've mentioned, but that's how much they spend.
So I think it's going to increase because I think more billionaires will come on board. And there is a value proposition for these guys, because they're always up to something in terms of working on the next thing, right? So their response will probably be like, we actually have foundations and charities, but we just also like to this is like the money we put into space is our future investment fund activity. So whether the question is whether they should put money elsewhere, I can't say, but it tells me that there is a vision and a plan, and more people are going to adopt the idea of traveling. I think it will turn into like an attraction, a theme park attraction.
I think it's just a race of the riches, because who was the first one? Was it Musk was the first one to announce that he was going to go to space, wasn't it?
And then the others jumped in.
And then Bezos, and then Branson just kind of beat them. He just did a sucker punch, like, yeah, see you guys, I'm out first. And even with that, NASA had awarded some sort of contract to Elon Musk, and a few weeks later, Bezos tried to almost buy that and get them to retract the contract, and he wanted that contract. So you just see how it's almost like the space race back in the late 60s and 70s with Russia, the US, trying to be the first to do something. And I feel like they've brought that down to today's age, but doing it on a private scale of a personal scale. And when you ask Ollie about, is it right to be spending 70 billion on space exploration and space expeditions, I can't, it's not my money. I can't speak on how they want to spend their money. But when you look about what's happening on Earth, people could easily argue and say there are other causes that may be worth fighting for other than just throwing money and going into space. And, it's like P said, it's like going into capitalism and all sorts. But there are many, with anything you could say, even when it comes to other funds, is that the right use of funds? Should we be spending so much money on looking at cutting carbon emissions, becoming net zero by 2050, looking at hydrogen as an alternative fuel? There are many things that we could debate at length for days, and there will always be something else that could take its place, but it's all about opportunity cost and what's going to be. It's a selfish desire, in all honesty.
I think it's a bit unfair also to say. I think it's a bit unfair to look at it and say, "Oh, you're spending 70 billion on space. Shouldn't that go elsewhere?" Because there's so many other thousands of cases where capital is mismanaged. So I actually like the idea that that billionaires or individuals are investing into what could be a future state of art or a future way of living or activity, which brings me to my point around, because a lot of this discussion is into the billions, and Olu, as you earlier said, I can't afford it. You made it very clear. But what I wanted to do actually is then bring it down to how can we become more interested in this space. And I think one of the ways is thinking about how much of our own capital is actually invested into future activities and future bets, right? So if I ask everyone on this call, how much of your money is invested in companies that are looking at technologies related to space? Probably zero. I'm just assuming. Will that change, right? Should that change? This is probably only the beginning for the likes of Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, and what we know that they've shown us in the past is that if they've got their eye on something, they're going to push it. So it could be an interesting thing for us to consider some companies or even suppliers of those companies that are leading the areas of space.
I'm invested in a supplier for SpaceX that supports SpaceX.
Why did you say it like that? Which one?
Because I'm just letting you know that one day I'll be able to afford the space.
What's funny is this whole episode was drafted and scripted just for Olu to say that one line that he just said.
I think so. That makes sense.
What about you, Joshua?
Which company?
I can't disclose the company because I'm not sure if it's public information. But yeah. Can't disclose.
Thing is also, Oli only discloses his information when he's wearing a turtleneck, and at the moment you can see that he's wearing a crew neck, so no information will be disclosed.
No, the only time we're going to find out about it is when he's got.
He's laughing at the bank.
Yeah,
he's got to liquidate some shares to pay some taxes back. That's what he's doing. Go on,
instead, I'll be liquidating shares to pay for a seat on one of these space crews.
Speaking of liquidating shares, guys, we might have to revisit that property versus stock discussion.
Wait, when you liquidating
I
some
received
stocks
some money
recently?
quick the other day. I said, "Whoa!"
Oh yeah, that's you know why this
my
is so
rent,
funny.
my
This is
rent
why
is
it's so
backed up,
funny.
but this stock money came in fast.
You're like, wait,
I'm literally chasing rent, and I pressed two buttons, bam, and I said, "Whoa!" I might have to give Olu a call right now.
I tell you, it's different, P. It's different when that
Yo,
money
it
hits
is
your
not.
account.
I'll be honest. Just a quick plug there. It is different. Like it is different. That I'll
And
say.
you're comparing it to rent. Compare it to selling a property.
Two
Compare it to selling a property
two
to selling
clicks.
stocks.
2 clicks. It was listen. It was so. Listen. This is how fast it was. It was so fast that I actually slowed the process down by double checking the details. It was 2 clicks. I was like, whoa, hang on. What do you mean transact complete? What? That's it? I was
I don't
like,
need to call
I'm
my
chasing
solicitor,
rent right now.
my accountant.
I went back. You know when you use stages, I went back. I said, hang on, let me start again. Okay. Number of shares. Click. Okay, whoa. Okay. Anyways, but yeah, liquid.
Oh my god.
Go on, Daniel.
No, sure. So, what about yourself?
No,
What's your
honestly,
views
although I don't really have, I think I don't really have much more to add on what P and Daniel have already said. I think for me personally, it's difficult to question on what other people want to spend their money on. And to be honest, if they've created their wealth through the means of their own business, their own innovation, their own ideas, I think it's quite a difficult position to say what they should be spending on. I think in the overall world, there's enough capital out there that if there's a cause that people really want to shift and move towards, then they can. It's just whether the incentives are probably there in the first place. But yeah, that's probably where I'm at.
Yeah, here's
Yeah.
one thing I would actually say, and it's more of a challenge to us, or maybe I start with myself, but to really think beyond our current investment plan and vision, right? Because right now mine is bricks and cement, old school foundation. It works, yes, but I'll go back to the question I asked earlier: how much of my money or capital is invested in future activities, right? And I think it's almost like stepping into the mindset of the likes of Jeff Bezos and Elon and the likes, and thinking, where can I be a front runner? Where can I be part of that wave? Because sometimes in our own ecosystem is very much, just a couple feet in front of us. So I think for me, that's something that I take from this discussion around looking well beyond things that I may not have actually considered at the start of this year. Should I get into, and when?
Yeah, and I think you mentioned it well. And in the documentary, right, Elon Musk said, "Look, it's not a situation where I'm investing 100% of my wealth to space exploration. Right, is putting 1 to 5% to space exploration. That makes sense. If it pays off, if it works, it's going to be game changing. Right. I think the key thing to think about this, and for our listeners, is a lot of people think, oh, space exploration doesn't really impact me. I think for the listeners and for you guys, we just need to continuously think about the technology that we leverage based on the advancements that we make trying to get to space. So those challenges in which they solve through science and maths, we then leverage it for life on Earth. If it's measuring pollution, sort of the climate change with the satellites that they put in space, if it's the technologies that we use for like GPS that we use on mobile phones, etc., it's making life on Earth easy as well. But to wrap up, let me just go to the last question. And why don't I ask you guys, and we can quickly go round. If I was to tell you that I've been selected and I won 4 tickets to go to space.
Yeah, because you couldn't afford it.
Next. So I won 4 tickets to go to space next month, and I get to select 3 friends to take. Would you guys go? Would you take that opportunity? I would like to hear you guys' answers. So
I can go first.
Yeah.
It'll be a quick no. Purely because my family's here. So for me, it'll be family. If I'm to go in space and there's a risk of never coming back, we'll go in together.
Wow, that's selfish.
Wow, selfish.
So So they
Live together, die together.
We will die together.
Nah.
Versus.
If I'm going, listen, no, because I said if there's a risk, there's a risk also. There's a risk when you drive, when you fly. So I'd
So
rather
you're
be
gonna
with
take
the
all of them
family.
with you?
No, listen to what I'm saying. But then listen
Are you gonna dig yourself out of this one? Are you gonna dig yourself out of this one? Go on.
listen to the logic. Listen to the logic, right?
Let me hear this logic.
If I jump in there myself, right,
Yeah.
to what you guys are saying, it means that I really see there's a risk of not coming back, right?
No.
No.
No,
How?
compared to having my family with me. So what I'm okay, this is because you guys
He's
are
saying
making
if
it
he
seem as
goes,
if
the first part you said is if you go, there's a
Hear
risk
what
of
I'm
you not
saying?
coming back.
No,
Got it.
hear what I'm saying. I'm going because it's an experience, and if it's an experience, I want to take the family with me. Now, if there is a risk I can't come back, I would prefer to have the family with me. That makes
That's the same
sense.
thing.
You didn't save yourself at all. Okay.
I'm not trying to save
No.
myself, bro. I'm trying to explain what I'll do.
No, but then we're just saying that's selfish. That's all.
No, what's selfish is me going up to have an experience in space and my family watching from the window and saying, "Bye, Dad. Come on, jump in with me." That's my point.
But when you said jumping with me, it was about you not making it back in one piece. That you said jump
No,
in
I
with me.
said, listen, there's a risk in anything you do. And I said,
Okay.
if there's a risk I can't come back,
Okay.
I'd rather have the family with me. That
Got
makes
it.
sense, man.
Got it. Okay. Sure. What about
Oh,
yourself?
no, I'm already there,
When you
bro.
get a couple kids, you would want to do the same as well.
No, I just understand your logic.
What you said made sense, right? There was one guy there who was a father of 2 daughters, and he struggled with the whole traveling, right? He said, I am a father first. So he needed to make sure that everything was okay with his wife, with his kids prior to him traveling. So I understand your response in terms of I'm a father first. I don't understand the response in terms of, hey, everyone come on board if there's a risk.
Okay.
That's the part I didn't understand.
Not. I didn't say there's a risk. I said if there's a risk. My point is, look, it's simple. We roll together everywhere. So we roll into space or we're not rolling into space. That's it. That's basically what I said. No,
that's where you should have stopped. That's where you should have stopped. What about
Go
yourself?
on,
What about yourself?
I'm already.
Daniel.
I was just gonna say I'll be asking how long we're going for. When are we back? Those are my main questions before saying yes or no to anything.
For 4 days.
Sweet.
We're going for 4
4
days.
days.
Yeah.
No, I'm not
up
going
in
to space for that long.
space.
That's long.
You,
That's long.
man.
4 days. Nah. It's staying in one tube thing. It's like staying in a plane for 4 days.
For me, it's up and back.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
How quick do you think up and back is?
Well, no, it's not about
Couple
quick.
hours.
I'm saying that's what I ain't staying there for 4 days. We up, we down.
Okay. So they were in space for 4 days where they orbited the Earth multiple times and then they came back.
4 days. I need to watch this documentary.
I highly recommend it. So I think based on you guys' response, it would only be Shuar and I on this space. So for our listeners,
I thought it was more going to be a case of if you got 3 tickets, why should I choose you? And then be like, well, I ain't gonna select you anyway.
That's a good question. That's a good question.
That is a good question. But seeing that you two are not
because the question is, who would you want to be up there with? Do you know what I mean? If anything does go wrong, who you want to be up there?
You've already told us your family. You've told us.
Yeah, I know,
already.
but that's me. I'm just asking you, like, who would you want up there to help you problem solve?
I wouldn't want you there if there's.
I know, I know. If anything goes wrong, me and you're clashing heads for sure.
Man, you guys would be clapping heads if things are going well. If
But anyways, no, this has been a really interesting. It's been a different episode, right? I thought let's get us outside of our comfort zone, talk about space exploration, and I would highly recommend our listeners to check out the documentary. Is called SpaceX. Is on Netflix. You can find it. It's really interesting. It gets you outside of your normal thinking and your environment. It lets you think about space, the life outside there, what people are doing in terms of advancing the culture and the human race species forward. So thank you very much for listening. Pass it over to Daniel.
So without further ado, thank you for listening to episode 99 of Take Flight Podcast. We're not going into space just yet, but next episode will be 100. It will be a milestone. We hope you'll join us there for that wonderful episode and celebrate the occasion with us. As always, if you have any feedback for us, you can find us on Instagram at Take Flight Podcast or email us at takeflightpodcast@gmail.com. In the meantime, stay well, stay safe, look after one another. God bless.
Peace.
Take off, take flight with you. Yeah, for we never